Welcome to the Bothell City Council regular meeting of February 16th, 2016. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's the first time that's happened in 4 years.
And the worst part is none of us notice it.
Well, I guess we can just wing it. Let's pretend like there's a flag of the United... Oh, wait, it's coming. Okay. All right, now we're ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. All council members are present and accounted for except for Councilmember Sandberg. She's absent and excused, and Councilmember Freed that we haven't heard from, but let's assume he's en route. So let's start with the meeting agenda approval. Is there any changes to tonight's agenda? Nope. How about the projected agenda? We're good there. So with no further ado, the consent agenda. Since no items have been pulled, do I have a motion to pass the agenda? Councilmember Spivey, did you make the motion? Yeah, and then seconded by Deputy Mayor Dewar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, passes unanimously. With Councilmember Sandberg and Freed absent and excused, the next item on our agenda is the visitors section. This is the portion of the meeting where members of the public are welcome to come and speak with the council. I will cut you off at 3 minutes. I apologize for that in advance, but we do that so to make sure that everybody adheres to the rules. And the other piece is, please be careful not to point out one individual in particular on the council. You can speak to us as a body. And these little yellow sheets are in the back there. If you haven't had a chance to fill one out, these are what I read people's names off of. So the first person is Sarah Glarum.
Thank you very much. I'm still kind of out of breath from just having gotten here, and I'm speaking to you already. I'm here tonight because I'm a member of the Bothell Advisory Board, the Library Advisory Board. You've appointed me to that, and I thank you very much. The whole point of the board is to serve as conduit between the community and the library and the community. So we all think that it's a really good idea to periodically come to the city council and let you know what we think is exciting that's happening at the library. So I hope that you're okay with that. You can cut me off in 3 minutes because I really could go on for a long, long time. Every year, the King County Library Services picks a theme for the year for its adult programs. And the 2016 theme has a lovely, catchy title. It's called When Everyone's Talking About It, We Can Make a Difference. And I'm sure you will agree that that is a true statement. So for that reason, then, there are various programs that are being offered kind of along that theme. And we have one of the most exciting ones that's happening in Bothell on the 28th of February, which is a Sunday. Another reason to just applaud the library that it's available on Sunday. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to have a conversation with a man who teaches aviation and technology at Green River Community College. His topic, Introduction to Drones. Now, we all know that drones can solve a lot of problems, and we all can imagine the problems that drones can present. And this is a way to talk about some of these things. And as city council people, my guess is that it won't be too long because there'll need to be some new laws about operating drones in the city. So this would be a great introduction. And again, 28th of February, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Another one we're really excited about, a program, is coming up in March, toward the end. It's the 21st, and that's a Monday night at 7 o'clock. And that's a man who wrote a book called Too High and Too Steep, about shaping Seattle, the forefathers who were there slicing down Denny Hill and cutting through the ship canal. He's going to be leading a conversation about how change in topography can change a lot of other things. And of course, with the tunnel, et cetera, I think that will be very interesting and pertinent as well. And I think this man will lead a good discussion. The last and very fun thing that I want to tell you about is if you happen to have or know people who have grade school age children, on the 13th of March, another Sunday afternoon at 2, those children are invited to the library where handlers will have dogs and each child will get a dog to read to. And they get to read for an hour. Now you can say that's silly, but reading to a dog is a tremendous self-esteem builder and confidence builder for somebody who's learning to read. And the handler will stay with the dog and the child. And it should be a wonderful experience, the 13th at 2 o'clock. And I think my timer went off, so I will stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. And by the way, Ms. Clerum, can I ask you a quick question? Are those dates on the King County website? Is it easy for people to reach?
I'm so glad you asked that because your wonderful communications director, Barbara, has also let us put a few things on the Bothell website. But yes, all those dates are on the website for King County Library Services. And I gave the clerk copies of the whole year's program for you to look at, sent to you especially from Karen Hardiman, who is the head librarian at Bothell.
Great. Thank you very much. Next person on the list is John Worth.
Hello. I am John Worth. I'm the conductor and music director of the Riverwinds Concert Band. We are a community music organization with 45 members. We just moved into the area, and we just wanted to come and talk about that a little bit. We're a traditional concert band, woodwind, brass, percussion, play traditional literature. For instance, this concert that's coming up now, we've got Bliss Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, we've got Alfred Reed's Armenian Dances, we've got a Sousa March. It's the usual band repertoire. Our members come from King and Snohomish County. We've people coming in from Seattle, down from Snoqualmie, from all over the area. Many different types of folks. We had lawyers, doctors, teachers. We have an airline pilot, mail carriers. I fix musical instruments, teachers, all manner of folks. We started off in Duval. We've moved here to Bothell. We wanted a more central location, an area where we have a wider reach in terms of who can join us and who can come to our concerts. We'd like to come and become part of the Bothell arts community. Hopefully we can connect with schools, senior centers, the general public, of course. We're here available for if the community requires a band for some purpose, some sort of community function, concerts in the park, that sort of thing. So we'd just like to let you know that we're here. And we'd also like to invite you all to our concert, which is March 12th, Saturday. It's 7:30 p.m. and it's at the Northwest Community Church on North Creek Parkway South, my favorite address currently. So that's just wanted to come let you all know we're here and say hi. Hello.
Great. Thank you very much.
Mayor, would he be willing to entertain a question?
Sure.
I'm fairly entertaining. I'd be happy to entertain.
We put them through me.
I just would like to know if that's going to be their home base for performances, or they'll be operating out of the Performing Arts Center at all, or, you know.
Well, at the moment, we did our first concert in Bothell was in November. We did that at the church. This one is also scheduled to be at the church. However, we would enjoy getting into some other local venues. For instance, we're going to be doing some pieces with narrators. If we get a good narrator in, could draw a crowd, we maybe go to a larger facility. We could like to perform in the park in the summer, for instance. So whatever local venues there are, we would enjoy being involved with them. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and I wasn't sure if you know about the Performing Arts Center.
Yes,
here
we
in
do.
town,
And
so-
we're actually looking into trying to book a concert there. But we have a member who's more familiar with that center, and he's
Great
working on that.
acoustics
Oh, yeah, he said it's beautiful, and we would love to play there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you entertain one more question?
Fire away.
Councilmember McNeil?
Can we get some contact information?
Could you give some contact information for your group to
Certainly.
Barbara Ramey? Is she over there? Okay.
Just give it to her in writing, or you want me to say it out loud now?
Oh, you could just give it to her in writing. That's fine.
That would
or
probably be easier
Would you like
for
to
all
hear it
of
out loud?
Let's say it out loud.
We'd say out loud. It's great.
Okay, we are, our website is riverwindsband.org. And you can reach me at conductor@riverwindsband.org. Those are probably the easiest ways to get in touch. There's also, we have a phone number, 425-442-5763. And that's me. That's my personal line, so
Great. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Sandy Gwynn.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. At the upcoming City Council retreat, it's my understanding that City Council may be discussing ways to provide fire service, including having a fire district provide fire services to Bothell, as well as how to fund fire services in the city of Bothell. Before decisions are made, I am respectfully requesting that City Council have discussions relating to, 1, fire station locations. The Regional Fire Authority studied station locations based on existing population. In my opinion, the study needs to be based on future population projections as outlined in the city's recently adopted comprehensive plan. New stations require new staff. 2, surrounding jurisdictions' plans for their new fire station locations. There may be opportunities to partner in one fire station with another jurisdiction. 3, results of the project study on fire substations. 4, type of fire and paramedic services Bothell residents desire. 5, what revenue would go to the contracting agency besides the cost of providing services? An example, is there any portion of the $2.6 million in fire revenue that the city currently receives from their citizens for various fire services, as outlined in the city manager's memo dated January 15th, 2015? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gwynn. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the council? I'm out of sign-up sheets, so anybody? Okay. Moving right along to AB 16-033, which is to consider award of construction contract for the Multi-Way Boulevard Project Phase 2. And with this is, I'm sorry, I did not to the right page. Ryan Roberts is here to present to us. Thank you.
Ryan Roberts of the Capital Staff. Tonight, if it's okay with council, I also have the next agenda bill, which is 34, which is kind of tied in with it, if I can present those at the same time.
That'd be ideal. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and council members. Agenda Bill 1633 considers entering into a contract with Interwest Construction to complete the Phase 2 of the Multi-Way Boulevard project, which will reconstruct Bothell Way Northeast from Straight Route 522 to Rita Way. Upon completion, the project will create a landscape boulevard that includes 4 lanes of arterial traffic with left turn lanes, a side access lane with parking for vehicles and bicycles, and a 13.5-foot wide sidewalk. The project will also seek certification as a Green Roads project, which requires the contractor to consider and utilize construction methods or practices which promote environmental awareness. The engineer's estimate for this work was $10,142,551. A total of 4 bids were received and opened for the project on April 4th of this year. And after evaluating bid proposals, the lowest responsive bid was determined to be submitted by Interwest Construction in the amount of $9,048,477. In conjunction with this construction award, staff is also presenting Agenda Bill 1634 to provide construction support, including but not limited to construction observation and documentation, review of contractor submittals, review of potential claims and change orders, design recommendations, field surveying, Greensward certification, and record drawings. These professional services are for $217,262. As part of this presentation, staff would recommend to authorize the city manager to enter into contracts in substantially the same form as presented with Interwest Construction Incorporated in the amount of $9,048,477 and with Pertite Incorporated in the amount of $217,262 for Phase 2 of the Multiway Boulevard project.
Thank you for your presentation. So do we have questions from the council? Deputy Mayor?
So I sent questions earlier today, and the one that wasn't answered, I'm just hoping we have an answer for, which is regarding project revenues. And let's see, the expenditures outpacing project revenues would be covered in part by a surplus of property proceeds and $2.2 million from the City Hall design credit, and I haven't gotten an answer yet on what the City Hall design credit is.
Okay, I believe the finance director may have responded to that question from another council member.
Oh, I'm sorry,
And so
did I miss it?
it may be in there, but I'll ask the
There were
finance
a lot
director
of
to also.
questions
There were a lot of
today.
questions that were asked today, and we tried to respond to
apologize
as
if I
many of
missed
them as we
that.
could. Thank you.
The overall of the agenda bill basically stated quite a few different opportunities that the city would have from the same fund, the Capital Improvements Fund, all these monies that are sitting there for a purpose in the CFP that are happening in outer years. There is only $300,000 that is actually anticipated to come into the city after this project is completed. So, and there's millions of dollars that are sitting there waiting to be spent in future years. So we really are good to go as far as covering those for the short term.
But can you explain what the City Hall design credit is?
The city paid for the design of the city hall up front, and then once we bonded the 49,000 or 49,600,000, we received those monies back because we went forward with construction.
Oh, I see. Okay,
So
great.
it's a reimbursement.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Any other council questions? No? We can, Councilmember Spivey.
Mayor, since there's no other questions, I would move that we approve Agenda Bill 16-033 and Agenda Bill 16-034 as presented.
The motion has been made by Deputy Mayor, Councilmember Spivey, seconded by Councilmember Agnew to move AB 16-033, which is construction award of, consider construction contract for the Multiway Boulevard Phase 2, as well as the construction oversight contract with, is it Pertite?
Petite.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Deputy Mayor?
So I'm going to be supporting this motion. I think the Multiway Boulevard is a really valuable and worthwhile project in terms of creating better pedestrian access and keeping the charm of downtown by separating out the local access roads. And I think it's really great urban design, and so I'll be supporting it. I think there are some things that could be improved, but overall, I think it's a really great design, and so I will be supporting it.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? So I just real quick want to say, I've been on the council for 4 years, and this has never been one of my favorite projects. But I do support moving forward with it. I will be voting yes on both motions. I appreciate all the questions that staff was able to respond to, given the 3-day weekend especially. You got them all this morning, and we got a lot of answers back. So I really appreciate that, and I do look forward to seeing traffic move smoothly through this portion of State Route 527. So with that, is there any other comments? Nope. All right. All those in favor of passing 16-033 and 16-034, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes unanimously. Next on our agenda is 16-035 with Human Resources Director Dean Perez. Oh, I should say the whole statement, sorry. Public Sector Personal Consultants Introduction to Council, RE start of the Comprehensive Classification and Compensation Study for ASME and non-represented positions.
Good evening. Before I introduce our consultants, I just wanted to give your council a quick background. In 2015-16, the contract with the Washington State County Council, Washington State Council of County and City Employees, which is our AFSCME union, included in the agreement to conduct a comprehensive classification and compensation study. The purpose of the study is to address current classification and compensation issues that include updating position descriptions and Fair Labor Standards Act classifications, aligning total compensation, base wage, and benefits, centered on external market and internal equity, and to establish a system for future review and rating of classes for the next 5 to 7 years. Your council also approved to include non-represented positions in the study to establish appropriate compensation relationships between the positions and eliminate the need for 2 studies. The startup activities have begun today. We're also going to be conducting meetings tomorrow morning through the afternoon with our employees. And I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our 2 consultants from public sector personnel. I have Kay Tilzer and Bob Longmire, and they're here to just go through a few slides with you and answer any questions you might have.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm Kay Tilzer with Public Sector Personnel Consultants. Just a brief little overview of the company here. We have been in business doing this type of classification and compensation study for a long time, over 40 years. We specialize in providing this type of work for local government, so counties, cities, special districts, a variety of municipalities are our basic bread and butter, if you will. We've done some recent studies for some of your neighbors. We've completed a project in Edmonds. We have Snohomish County recently completed and Tacoma Metro Parks that we're completing. So we are familiar with some of the neighboring communities and local governments. The study does include for us to review and update job titles and job descriptions. So we'll be reviewing any of the changes that have taken place since the last study was conducted, and I believe it was 2009, for the AFSCME and the non-represented positions. We'll be looking at getting some updated information from employees, talking about what their jobs are, the job duties they're performing today, reviewing the current titles, reviewing the existing job descriptions to make sure all of those are up to date and accurate. And then we'll be conducting a total compensation study to see what's going on in the marketplace for these particular occupations. So we'll be looking at base compensation as well as collecting some benefit information to see what has happened in the last few years and where the city stands competitiveness-wise. Phase 1 of the project here, we'll be looking at gathering updated information from employees about what their job duties are. So the employees will be providing updated job information about duties, tasks, knowledge, and skills. We'll be looking to make sure that the classifications are still appropriate within with the work that's being performed at the city, verifying that each employee is classified in the most appropriate job title or classification. Gathering that market data and then using that content that we've collected from the employees to try and identify, based upon content, not just titles, but content, what the value of that work is in the marketplace, so that we can assess the city's competitiveness with the marketplace. So we'll be looking at the city's pay plan, what is paid for each occupation, how do employees move through that range. We'll be looking at what's working currently, what things might need to maybe be massaged a little bit to allow the city to be more competitive, to attract and retain employees, and then to reward them based upon longevity, performance, and skill set. So we'll be working with the city to determine what's working, what's not, what things can be improved, looking at updating any of the areas of the salary structure, salary pay plan, or policies that might need to be improved to make the city a little more competitive and able to basically attract and retain employees. And then we'll be looking at what all that market data means and working through some implementation fiscal impact scenarios to find out, what will it cost to make any of those changes to the city, and is that something that can be built into budget and bargaining unit processes. Just a quick couple of notes here. The study is not intended to provide salary increases to everyone. So what we're looking at is gathering market data and making any kind of fine tuning that's necessary to keep the city at its desired level of competitiveness. So we're not looking at trying to provide or recommend salary increases for all employees. That's something that would be part of your regular budget process. We're just looking for market deviations, areas where maybe the city is falling behind, hard to recruit jobs, to identify if there's a market issue that needs to be addressed. We will probably be bringing forward to the city some recommendations and looking for some city and council approval in terms of what is the city's desired level of competitiveness. What can they afford to be competing at? Are we talking about 50th percentile, 100% of the marketplace? So we'll be talking about some policy decisions along the way and what that means to the city. Some historical survey criteria and factors that we'll need to talk about will be dusting off that market model from past years, who we've compared to in the past. Is it still relevant to include those same market competitors? With an eye to where does the city retain, where do they lose their employees to, and where do they recruit employees from? So is it local cities? Are they cities statewide? Do you have a private sector influence? So looking at historical market models, are those still relevant today? Do they need to be modified? Are there any new players that need to be addressed, or maybe some players that need to be dropped off? But looking at that historical model, looking at how that historical model relates to each of your job groups. So we'll be looking at, through our compensation study or our classification study, does that market model fit all of the job groups, or are there areas? Sometimes we see executive jobs that are maybe competed for in the market a little bit differently than maybe some of your frontline employees. So you might have a local group or a national group or a regional group of jobs that we need to look at those market models. Focus of the study will be making comparisons on jobs, not comparing cities. So if we're looking to include some of the cities such as the city of Seattle, we're not necessarily comparing the city of Bothell to Seattle. They're very different. However, there's some jobs that might be competed for, a common group of jobs that they have that are similar to the city of Bothell. So with that in mind, it is the jobs that we'll be looking to study and compare in the marketplace, not necessarily the cities themselves or the ability of a city to pay. These are the past comparators that we used. I think they've been used for a couple of previous studies. So they were used in the 2009-2010 study, and I believe they were also used in the study prior to that. But these are some of your local neighboring municipalities that share some of the same types of jobs that the city of Bothell competes for in the marketplace. The study, we're looking to complete the study in 120 to 150 days. So we're looking at about a 3 to 4 month turnaround on this. And we have some embedded time in there to meet with the city, meet with the labor groups, and make sure that as we go through this process that we have involved and included any of the pertinent parties so that they can review draft findings and recommendations, make sure that we're on track, and ultimately that PSPC gets this job done correctly and accurately. Do you have any questions?
Is there any questions from the council? Yes, Councilmember Spivey.
Great, thank you. Will you be getting into any of the bargaining history of of AFSCME to see where maybe they gave something up in the past to retain something, or so it could throw kind of the balance off as far as, if they're behind on something, it could be that they gave something up to get something else. So will you be looking into the bargaining history as to what was given up to achieve something on the other end?
Yeah, I think it'll be necessary to have some of those conversations to make sure that we don't repeat something that happened in the past that maybe is not desirable to repeat. Our focus will be on base compensation and those benefits, adding those together to look at how the city's benefit offerings and compensation offerings differ from the market, but I think it'll be important to be aware of the history there as well and take that into consideration. So yeah, we're always reluctant to try to repeat something that we just undid or duplicate something that maybe wasn't working. So yeah, I think it will be important to have those discussions and understand the history of how the city got to its current offering packages before we start making recommendations about changes.
And you'll be asking both sides about that history, I take it?
We'll be collecting it probably through HR, and I know that there has been some structured meetings with the labor and the bargaining units to make sure that they're part of this process. So we'll have conversations on that, but it'll be a collaborative process in terms of what does the city desire to pay, what is the competitiveness level that they desire, and then of course the conversations about what employee benefits would like and what's the city able to and willing to afford. So it'll be a collaborative process.
Okay, because I'm not sure, I mean, we have great staff, but we've also had some turnover, and I don't know who in the HR department's been part of the negotiating over the years, so that's why I want to make sure that you're getting both sides on that.
Okay.
Because we've got some long-term employees that may they may be better historians for some of that because they were here, where maybe our negotiators have moved on the city side. I think you answered my second question when you were talking about comparing positions and not cities, when you showed the list of cities that will be included in that. So I'm assuming that there is a city comparison model there then.
Yeah, I believe that the basis for selecting those originally was populations, and it was half the size to 150% of the size of the city of Bothell. So I believe
Okay,
that
so-
there was some parameters that were originally set, but PSPC likes to kind of keep everyone focused on where your employees are coming from when you fill a position and where do they go to.
Right.
And so some of that, it does sort of shake out when you start looking at some of those demographic.
Okay, well, your
statistical.
5150 answered my third question, so great, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember McNeil?
Thank you, Mayor. So I wanted to understand the jobs comparison. You had mentioned you compare jobs and comparing Bothell to Seattle. Can you speak about that a little bit more? How does that actually work?
Correct. There's a couple types of jobs that we're going to be looking at. Those that are size sensitive, so that means that the size of the city is going to impact the scope of the job. So for instance, when we're talking about the city manager for the city of Seattle, I think we can all agree that that is probably a different job than the city manager for a much smaller city. But for jobs such as an accounting clerk or an office specialist, the city of Seattle being a larger city, the scope of those jobs are probably not going to be influenced tremendously by the fact that Seattle is just a huge city, because an office specialist job is going to be pretty much an office specialist from place to place. However, what we will be looking at is that no two office specialists are the same. So we'll be using that position analysis questionnaire completed by an office specialist here at the city of Bothell and looking for, at the city of Seattle, who performs those duties. So we'll be looking for job content that matches. So some jobs, the city of Seattle is not going to be a match because of that scope and complexity, but for many of those jobs, especially when you're looking at your frontline workers, we'll be looking at the job content based upon the PAQ information provided by the employees and trying to identify who at the city of Seattle is doing that.
Okay, thank you. And then you talked about the other cities that we'll be comparing to. Are you talking to employees at those cities, or how do you gather the information from the other cities?
We typically contact the other cities and ask them for their entire salary plan. We ask for job descriptions, org charts, budget documents, so they provide us that information, and then we go through that and try and identify which jobs have that similar content. So while there's not a perfect match, even within the city, two office specialists in different departments are going to vary a little bit. We'll be using those documents to identify which jobs content-wise are the same as those at the city of Bothell, and then extracting that data into our survey.
Okay. And then as far as length of employment, do you also dive into that at all to be able to tell like an employee's been there 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20 years?
No, for the salary survey, we will be looking at comparing the salary structures. So the length of employment for the employee will not be considered into this study. It'll be the occupational class, what's the minimum and maximum paid for that occupational class, and then we will be comparing the midpoint of the salary range, midpoint representing that journey level competent performer. So there's an assumption made that we're talking about an employee who's been in their job for a few years, typically 5 to 7, who's competent, performs well, performs consistently, and that's where that midpoint would come into play. So we'll be comparing midpoints to midpoints. Now, this is still early in the discussion, and we've certainly done for a step plan, it might be a maximum to a maximum, but we'll be comparing the salary structures in the marketplace, and so the longevity of the employee won't influence that data. And that's partly why we use a structure to structure, is to eliminate the influence of longevity, of the tendencies for supervisors. Some might pay differently than other supervisors. Some are very generous in increases. So if we do structure to structure, it eliminates some of those anomalies.
Okay, and will we have a way to see kind of where the overlaps are? So like, let's say Seattle's a much bigger city, and they may have different job descriptions, or people are doing different things than Bothell will. Will we have the ability to take a look at the study and be able to tell that, you know, the city manager of Seattle does far more than the city manager of Bothell, or Public Works Director does different things in Seattle than they do in Bothell? Will we be able to see that level of detail, or is it just going to be a classification?
Probably not that level of detail. I mean, we can certainly pull those documents and provide that as backup to the salary survey to show that we've pulled the job descriptions and any other backup documentation to that. Typically, where you would see that, well, and this is assuming, of course, that dollars are tied directly to scope. Oftentimes, when we're looking at these salary dollars, the larger cities pay higher dollars, and so you can see that effect on that. So we would have to, for some of those size-sensitive jobs, discuss, does that mean we're going to weight these jobs? So for City of Seattle, we're going to say we're only using 80% of that salary, or it might be that because the job is so much bigger that we would just say City of Seattle is not a comparator for our executive jobs. So typically we would be looking at survey data and then aggregated data in order to make our decisions. And so the consultant would be looking to screen those things out.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, okay. Thank you for coming in. Oh,
Just
Director.
one clarification, because we were using the city manager as an example. The city manager is not going to be included in the salary study.
I didn't know City of Seattle had a city manager. I don't think they knew that either. But thank you for coming in. I think it's really important to evaluate our staff's salary range and make sure we're competitive. And, you know, AFSCME is really diverse, probably our most diverse group of staff members that do all sorts of activities, from public works to, you know, finance to everywhere else. So you have a big job ahead of you. I do have just one statement, because I've been doing municipal work for 15 years, and then working for large cities is painful because you really can't get stuff done very easily, so you get paid more. And then a small city, you don't get paid very much and you have to do a million things. And then a city our size is really, you know, an optimal size city to work for. Is that taken into consideration when you evaluate the compensation package?
It's taken into consideration when we start talking about the salary range placement. When we start collecting the data is the data. But as we start discussing, okay, what does this data mean? What is this telling us? That's where we start to the rubber meets the road, the art and the science come together of, you have a desirable place to work. Do we need to be paying 100% of market competitive wages? Well, we don't think so, because we can attract employees if we pay a little less than market. So that becomes more of a policy decision to say, we're going to price a little bit lower than the market because of these factors, or maybe a little bit higher because of these factors. But usually we just start with that raw data, and then the interpretation process would be how we would start to place the value on where we slot those jobs into your structure.
Okay. That was my only question. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
We're at the end of the agenda, except for, did you have something else, Director?
No, I was just
Perez?
going to shut this
Okay.
off.
We do have an executive session for 15 minutes on litigation matters, and I don't believe we're going to come back to make any decisions tonight. No. So after that, we are done. How about that? Okay. So we're going to go to executive session for 15 minutes.